Hey brothers, and welcome to the second part of the AVICII Producing Series by me, Alex ST. And today we will focus on the pre-chorus. The last thing we did was looking at the verse, and now we will go through the pre-chorus to then in this next episode talk about the drop. And the FLP of this is available in the description, just like my other remakes, and the link for this song, Legend is Born, is available in the description as well. I encourage you to go check that out if you haven't done it yet, so you get more understanding of the entire track. And this is basically what we have to do, and now we can just jump right into the project and see what we've got. So, like we started with the first episode, we looked at the chord progression, and what I mentioned was that the chord progression for the pre-chorus would be the same as the drop. And why is that? Well, I decided to keep that because that introduces the vibe of the drop more if you keep the chord progression on the pre-chorus the same as the drop. So that's why I decided to do that. I can give you guys an example here. Here we have the chord progression for the drop, and that's what I decided to keep on the pre-chorus. So there's no need to explain everything else. We can just jump right into the pre-chorus and see what we got. So the first thing we will look at is the piano. So I decided to keep the same three pianos as in the verse, but they are built up in a slightly different way. The first piano looks like this, and we do have the lower octave here, which hits the first time, and then the second time the higher octaves with the chord responds to the lower octave here. So together sounds like this. Let me just see so you guys see. Yeah, I think you get the point. It responds to the lower octave here, 2 octaves up with the chord. And for this one, when it jumps to the D flat up to the F flat, we go between the F, so it does not jump right up to the F. It sounds like this. You guys see this little F chord here, and that's very important because in the original in Instagram piano ID, we can hear that he does not jump right up. He goes between D flat via F up to F flat, and that is the first piano. Now the second piano, I decided to keep the lower octave here because the lower octave plays a more important role than in the verse. So that's why I decided at least 2 pianos should have the lower octave. Just like the other one, we have the chord up here 2 octaves up. Same layout, sounds like this. And then the third piano, which has another character, I decided to take away the lower octaves because this is much more mushier and it has more sustain on it. So if I were to keep the lower octaves, if it just like ruined the sound image, I'd say, you can have a listen to it. Yeah, it isn't too bright either, and it sounds like this. Bit different here. I added another note here on the third A flat chord, and that's basically it. So combined with the first and second piano, it sounds like this. Fills up the sound image very good, very flat, very soft. And we can move on to the next element, which is a bass line. So here's when the bass gets introduced, and it's very important here that we work with more than one bass, because one bass is not enough. You have to stack it up with a sub bass at least. I would say sometimes I use 3 to 4 basses, which is quite common in these days. But in this case, I decided 2 was enough because this is not the bass of the drop. So the first bass sounds like this. I wanted the notes to be quite long, but not so they are fading into each other, because then the bass would be too like mushy. So we leave a little bit of space in between there, and it's low passed as well. But that's a thing I will talk about in a later episode. And then we stacked it up. I stacked it up with this sub bass. So all combined, it gets really much more deep in the bass. The depth is much bigger. And then the very important thing here is the guitar, because the guitar plays a very important role here, since this song in the end is a bit of a mix between an acoustic song and an electronic, and that's just what Tim used to do. So the first guitar that I thought I should involve in the drop sounded like this. But I felt like there was something missing, because when I added it on top of the piano and the bass, I felt that it was still a bit empty. So what I decided to create was this type of guitar that I put on top, which sounds like this. And when you combine it with the second guitar, or the first one, so to speak, you get this. And the stereo image of this one differs a bit, and that's an important thing, which I will talk about later as well. So, when you put that on top of the piano and the bass, we get something like this. Pardon, I will just get the filter on, so. Yeah, very smooth, very soft. I think that the guitar plays its role here when we have two layers of it. And now, let me see. After half of the verse, I decided to introduce these strings here. Very simple, just a cello here. Since now, guys, when I make a remake, I really think which time era should I go of, and that's a very important thing, because if I were to create this song according to the Tim album, it would definitely sound very different from the end result that it ended up with. But in this case, I decided to look at the True album and see what elements and what style he used there, and that's why I added this like strings, because strings is a thing that he used in True very much. Of course, he did use it in the other album as well, but in this case, it's just there in the background, very low, so you can't really tell it's there. But like, as I've said, if you take it away, it gets a bit more empty. So, that is the elements that we have. Now we'll look at the samples here, because we have the kick. And the kick is quite important, because I wanted it to be some kind of acoustic kick. But I did not want to use the same as in the drop, because then I think it would be a bit boring. I would like to change the kick when it came to the drop. So, what I decided to do is to put the top kick on the top. With a slightly bit of reverb on it, because that's the thing that Tim used quite often in the True album. Then I wanted to stack it up to make it more fat with another kick, which is a bit more acoustic. And then a kick with a more sustain on it to fill up the kick spectrum more, so to speak. And now, as you might hear, I've taken away the top kick of it and just left the sustain, because the other two kick works for the top part, especially the first one, and the second one makes for the middle part, so to speak, and then the third one makes for the end. So together it sounds like this. Pretty good. And then we added a clap in between. And the clap is quite important, because it fills up between the kick, and that's a thing that Tim used as well in songs such as Wake Me Up, for example. If you pay close attention, you might hear a clap, between the kick there. And that is for the first part of the pre-chorus. Now, after half of the pre-chorus, there is some elements that is added, except I talked already about the string, but there is a snare. And the snare consists of 3 snares, actually. Altogether it sounds like this. So the first one is this. quite short one, second one. Bit longer, and then the third one a bit deeper. So together. And I wanted to add a tambourine on top, because that's the thing that is very important to get that AVICII vibe, the tambourine, but it's important that it's used the right way. And in this case, I decided to put it on top of the snare, so it sounds like this. Not too easy to tell it's there, but if you take it away, you can't really tell that it's missing. So very, very low, but it's still there. And I did another cool theme effect here. I added a white noise. And together with some effects like this. So that's a very important thing, and it just makes the track more theme vibey, so to speak. And it sounds like this all together. Yeah, and what I did not mention earlier about the kick was that I decided to put a little bit of a hi-hat here. I actually forgot it here. That's what I did in the end. I decided to put a hi-hat as the top of the top kick, so it sounds like this. So we get the hi-hat, we got the top kick, we got the middle kick, and we got the end kick. I hope you pardon me for that. And a crash. Not too complicated. And that should be it for the pre-chorus. So you guys, let me know if there's something that I missed. Give me some feedback. I'm still not used to this. So if there's something that I'm missing, or there's something I talks about too much, just let me know. And the next episode we will go through the build-up and drop. So stay tuned for that. So the FLPs will be available in the description, and all the samples are involved in the FLP upon purchase. And please subscribe until the next episode. Please take care.